Let's look at Joe Biden here now, speaking for the first time since quitting the presidential race, saying personal ambition couldn't prevent saving democracy. Have a little listen to what Sleepy Joe had to say.
You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
Yeah, Kamala Harris is the best way to unite our nation, says Joe Biden through gritted but very shiny teeth, we should say. We'll hear what Trump had to say on Kamala Harris in a few moments. Let's speak to Ryan Harris, journalist and reporter. Good afternoon to you, Ryan. Nice to have you with us. I mean, Joe Biden was clearly spent a number of days before he's decided to make this speech, which some people see as curious in itself.
Well, keep in mind, too, the president was recovering from COVID, so he had to isolate himself for a few days before he could return back to civilization. But I think that the president and his team, of course, also wanted to give themselves the right amount of time to make this speech, because we're going to hear it over and over and over again. I mean, we're still replaying the speech from Lyndon Johnson from 1968, where he declined to accept the nomination of the Democratic Party and run for a final term there. And this speech is of that same caliber because it's been so long since a sitting president has declined to go for a second term. So I would assume that that was the logic behind that.
We can safely say, though, Ryan, can't we, that this isn't a speech that Joe Biden had planned to make. It's not one he wanted to deliver.
No, not at all. And he admitted it in the speech. You heard him say,
yeah.
He had to set personal ambition aside and think about the good of his party and the good of the country. And let's be honest, Joe Biden knew which way the wind was blowing. The pressure was mounting. The calls were growing for him to step aside because they don't see a path for him to beat Donald Trump. Now, that doesn't mean Kamala Harris has an easy job, and she even said she needs to earn this nomination, although based on what they would call a whip count of the delegates, she seems to have it locked up. It looks like when the convention comes in just under 4 weeks, that the delegates there, enough of the delegates, will vote for her to become the nominee. But she also has a tough row to hoe and not a lot of time to do it.
Do you think, I mean, Joe Biden, is he going to go quiet now? Is that it? Will we hear nothing more from him, or will he keep chipping in and releasing different videos or giving interviews, etc.? Because that could become a huge distraction for the person who is now standing for the Democrat Party.
No, I think what you'll hear is just the opposite, and he hinted at it in his speech last night. He'll be out on the campaign trail, and having the president out there on the trail will be huge. And in fact, as we get closer to the election, you'll see Barack Obama and Michelle Obama out there acting as surrogates for Kamala Harris. I expect you'll see Bill and Hillary Clinton as well. They'll all be out there in defense of their new candidate, especially since they know, she didn't have the full, I mean, we start the presidential election cycle nearly 2 years in advance. They jump right in right away. Yeah. And now we're doing it more European style, where it's just a matter of weeks. So they'll all be out there in full force, including President Biden. And, he travels in Air Force One. That's a great optic. He has to in order to maintain his security. So all of those things the Democrats are hoping will work in their favor. And the other thing, too, to keep in mind, and this goes to Kamala Harris's choice for a vice presidential candidate, she appeals to, younger voters and minority communities, and is raising a huge amount of money, especially among Black voter groups. So she'll need the people that President Biden brought in, suburban women and older white folks, in order to really solidify her base.
Yeah. Well, let's have a listen to the opposition then. Donald Trump has been speaking as well. And here's what he says about his opponent, Kamala Harris.
If Kamala Harris gets in, she would be the most radical far-left extremist ever to occupy the White House times 10. There's never been a lunatic like this in the White House, and we've had some bad ones. So now we have a new victim to defeat. Lion Kamala Harris, Lion, L-Y-I-N apostrophe. The most incompetent and far-left vice president in American history. Kamala will lie to you so brazenly about Joe Biden's mental incapacity, then she will lie to you about anything. She can never, ever be trusted. She can't be trusted. And just like crooked Joe Biden, Kamala Harris is unfit to lead. She's unfit to lead. She'll destroy our country in a year.
Well, I tell you what, Ryan, I mean, in terms of entertainment, he never fails in that respect. But, of course, this is serious stuff. And he came straight out of it. You know, Kamala Harris is a lunatic, he says.
Yes, and, you know, I'll tell you, the way it feels coming from the Trump camp over the past few days since this announcement, I'm going to steal a line from Dolly Parton in the film Steel Magnolias, that he doesn't know whether to scratch his watch or wind his butt. And, you know, I say that in jest, but, you know, they geared up to run against Joe Biden. And they're not prepared now for this new race. They are in a bit of a scramble. Of course, they're in the position of having a slight lead in the national polls. So, you know, that's something they can hang their hats on. But they're really now, again, gearing up to take on a whole new candidate. And let's look at it. Donald Trump first said, well, we have one more debate. I agreed to debate Joe Biden. So it sounded like he was going to try to dodge a debate with Kamala Harris. Now he says he'll debate her as many times as she would like. So they also have a difficult job in the Trump camp because they have to switch gears.
It's going to be interesting to watch those debates when they finally happen. Will there be, I mean, how many are there usually? Sort of half a dozen between now and the election? 3 or 4? What's the deal there?
But it's usually just 1, 2, maybe 3, or possibly 2 between the presidential candidates and 1 with the vice presidential candidates. But usually, again, there's a little bit of a time frame there. In fact, the debate in which Joe Biden performed so badly was unusual in that it was scheduled so early in the cycle. But the other thing, too, you'll notice that he mispronounced her name. I suspect he'll do that in the debate, and she will jump on that, even though it's a bit of a minor point compared to the issues at stake. But she'll jump on that and skewer him, and that'll be one of those gotcha moments. Yeah,
we'll watch with interest. Can't wait. Popcorn at the ready. Ryan, thank you. Ryan Harris, US journalist and reporter on the Biden stuff as well as Trump's. I did like his lunatic line. It's the greatest lunatic that's ever been in the White House, and there's been many, he said.